and thank you, Omer, for the introduction. My name is Liran Baba from ITNF Professional Services, and during the next hour and a half, we're going to cover the ACCCM, the Avaya Contact Center Control Manager, 1X Agent Centralized Administration capabilities within ACCCM. We're going to switch between a PowerPoint presentation, that, by the way, that you can all go about and download from the wiki website once this session is done. And we'll switch between the PowerPoint presentation and a demo on one of my lab servers. So, ACCCM Release 7, which was GA'd around December 2012, provides the ability to manage all Avaya 1X agent client configurations from a central repository. The Avaya 1X Agent Centralized Administrative Management, the CAM, within ACCCM includes the following: a configuration server for the client authentication, profile management, template management, and of course, we'll store all the contact history of the 1X users on the ACCCM 1XDB. One huge new feature in ACCCM Release 7 is the ability to go about and actually create an agent or a user from the ACCCM main application, from the user screen itself, and choose the 1X as available application for our agent, and you will actually be able to go about and provision an agent from the ACCCM main user form into the ACCCM CAM environment, including the profile assignment for our user. So this is a new enhancement in Release 7. In previous versions, you will have to use the dedicated management portal of the ACCCM 1X component in order to go about and create your users and assign your users to templates. And again, as a part of the feature pack of ACCCM Release 7, we've introduced a new ability to provision a 1X user into the 1X environment directly from the ACCCM main administration screen. We introduce a central configuration server for a client authentication. In the back end, we're basically having a web service on the IIS web server. Deployment-wise, we have a few options or a few flavors here. We can either go with a dedicated server, either physical or virtual, for the ACCCM 1X component, or we can leverage the existing ACCCM server and basically deploy an all-in-one installation, and all of the ACCCM system components, including the 1X module, will co-reside under the same server, again, whether it's physical or a virtual server. So the first part, or the out of the three parts that are the building blocks of the ACCCM 1X CAM component, we'll find the ACCCM 1X web service right here. And the web service is responsible of handling client authentication requests and either authenticating the clients against the ACCCM 1X database or against a domain controller, if you would choose to go with an SSO configuration, single sign-on. We'll talk more about the different authentication types later on during this session. Of course, it eliminates the need for local profile management of all of your agent desktops that desire the Avaya 1X agent. Again, if you would like to go with a local instance of 1X, without using ACCCM CAM, you will basically have to manage each and every user profile on his own local PC. Now, that can be quite an administration effort, and of course, in ACCCM, you can go about and provision all new users from one centralized location. And further on, you can actually leverage the import capabilities of the ACCCM 1X environment. You can import new users from a CSV file into the environment without having to go about and manually adding those one by one. We do support multiple authentication methods, including single sign-on with LDAP or an LDAP credentials. The differences between single sign-on, we refer to single sign-on as LDAP root, and against the differences to LDAP credentials. In a single sign-on session, while you launch the 1X client, the client will go about and issue a request to the ACCCM 1X web service. If the client is configured for an SSO mode, the ACCCM 1X web service will go about and issue a challenge to the domain controller in the environment in order to authenticate our user. If the user is authenticated correctly and will get the successful response from the domain controller, we'll go about and log the user in seamlessly without having the need to enter a username or password. So that would be single sign-on on ACCCM 1X. Another flavor, which is LDAP related, is use LDAP credentials. LDAP credentials stands for the user would input his own username and password to his Windows session on the 1X client. The ACCCM 1X web service will then take that information and use it to authenticate in front of a domain controller. The third option, or the third authentication flavor within ACCCM 1X, would be a basic authentication. And basic authentication means that the 1X agent will have to input a username and password to 1X. We'll take the username and password that the user inputted and authenticate this against the ACCCM 1X database. So 3 options or 3 flavors for authentication based on your customer or environment needs. Either we'll go with the basic authentication. We'll store the username and password in the ACCCM 1X database. We can choose to go with single sign-on, and we'll basically take the user credentials from the user Windows session and authenticate it in front of the domain controller. And the third option is to use the Windows credentials. The user will have to input his own Windows credentials in the 1X client screen, and we'll take these values and go about and authenticate them in front of the domain controller. ACCCM 1X module supports an HA deployment, high availability. We have many flavors of, if we would choose to go with an HA deployment, we can either go with an active config or an active standby config. We can go with a SQL application configuration for database high availability, or we can go with the database cluster. We can use or leverage an existing network load balancer, or even go about and configure a Windows network load balancer on our ACCCM 1X server in an HA deployment. The following diagram will represent the sequence or transaction flow between an ACCCM server and a 1X agent client. The very first step is to go about and launch the client itself on the agent desktop. Once we go about and launch the client will search on the desktop registry whether it is using a centralized admin mode or a local mode. If the client is configured to use a centralized admin mode and to use single sign-on, basically the client will search for the registry for the certain key that will represent the URL of the ACCCM 1X web service. It will then send a request, an HTTP request, to the ACCCM 1X web service in order to authenticate. And of course, we can go about and distribute the 1X agent web service across multiple physical or virtual servers for high availability purposes. So we can go from 1 until N agent web services in the environment. So once the client will send out the authentication request in an HTTP protocol or an HTTPS protocol to the ACCCM 1X web service, based on the client authentication type, the ACCCM web service will go about and interact with the ACCCM 1XDB to check the user or agent configuration. Based on the user authentication type, either database or basic authentication, SSO, or credentials, the ACCCM 1X web service will go about and either send out the request for authentication to the domain controller or check against the local database whether the user and username and password are correct. If we're getting a successful authentication message either from a domain controller, if we're using SSO, or from the ACCCM 1XDB, if we're using BASIC, we're going to select from the database the user template or the user profile itself. We'll parse it into an XML format, and we'll send that XML file, which contains the user profile and user settings, back to the web service, and from the web service down to the agent workstation. So for every login that you will do in 1X, ACCCM will go about and push an XML file with all of your agent configuration to the local PC. Once you go about for, I don't know, an 8-hour shift as an example, and you go about and add new contacts to the agent contact log, once you go about and log out from the 1X client, the client itself will take the local XML copy of the template itself, will search for the changes, and if we'll find any changes, we'll go about, take the local XML, push it back. Once we log out, we're going to push it back to the ACCCM 1X web service, and we'll go about and store it in the database. So in the next login of the agent will still have its template and even the new contacts that were added on a previous shift. So just to summarize or recap the sequence or the flow again, the client, based on the client configuration, will contact the ACCCM 1X web service. The 1X web service will interact with the ACCCM 1X database, will fetch the user configuration or the user profile assignment, parse it into an XML format, push it back to the web service, and push it down to the client local PC. So by now we know that we can find a web service on the ACCCM end that will represent the 1X client web service itself. We know by now that we can find a database on the ACCCM database server that will represent our ACCCM 1X database. And we can also find the ACCCM 1X management portal. We'll go about and use the ACCCM 1X management portal in order to create or import new agents or users, assign agents or users to templates, create or modify new templates, new domain data, or new groups. So from an administration perspective, you would leverage the ACCCM 1X management web portal to go about and configure your 1X environment. And the 1X client itself would leverage the 1X web service in order to receive and push back the client configuration. The following table will break down for us the two authentication flavors or options on ACCCM 1X. The first one would be the basic authentication, username and password that are stored in the ACCCM 1X database. The second option would be SSO, single sign-on with LDAP integration. And the username and the user would be authenticated via his own Windows session itself. And of course, we do support multiple domain environments. For example, if in your environment you have a forest with, I don't know, 5 different domains, each domain for a different region in the world, whether it's EMEA, APAC, CALA, or North America, for example, in ACCCM you can go about and create these domains or create the link for these domains. Later on, you would be able to create a domain group and group these 5 domains under one entity, thus allowing the user to log into ACCCM1X from any domain in your environment, whether it's the North America domain, the EMEA domain, or the APAC domain, for example. So ACCCM supports the ability to configure multiple domain controllers for either SSO or LDAP configuration. Finally, we can find the mixed mode. Mixed mode stands for both options, whether it's a username and password, and authenticated against the database, or username and password that will be taken from your Windows session credentials, or finally, the last option, the user would input his own Windows username and password, and these credentials would be authenticated against the domain controller. One note that I would like to stress out in this point: if we would like to go about and configure the ACCCM1X for a single sign-on or an SSO authentication, we will need to make sure that the ACCCM server is a member of either your forest or domain. Further on, if we configure multiple domains, we need to make sure that our server belongs to a domain, has trust relations with the other domains in our forest, so we can go about and authenticate the users across all domains in the environment. This screenshot was taken from the ACCCM1X management portal. Again, we will leverage the management portal to go about and import or create our agents, locations, or domain data, and template configuration. This screenshot is the screenshot from a template screen. And here I can go about and either create, modify, or delete a template. If you guys are familiar with the Avaya version of the CAM server, you would find that the layout of the screen is pretty much similar to the Avaya CAM server. Basically what we did here, we tried to keep out the layout and of the screen and the fields, all they're pretty much the same to the regular CAM server. Of course, the ACCCM CAM server has many other enhancements that you will not find in the traditional Avaya CAM server. For example, HA deployment would be one of them. So in here I can go about, and this is the, as you can see, I'm under the settings screen in the template itself. And in here I can go about and again create or modify a template. And any change that I'm going to do in this template would affect all users that are previously assigned to this template. So let's say this template is previously assigned to a certain user in the environment. If I go about and choose, for example, read-only values for the login telephony screen, all other users that were previously assigned for this template on the next login to one's client would receive this new update for read-only values. Again, regardless of the agent's physical location, whether it's on a data center on Tel Aviv or in a data center on Miami, you will still have all the agent information available without using a local instance or a local copy of the client config itself. Under the user itself, you can find the assigned profile or the assigned template for the user. And in here we also have an option to go about and edit the profile for this user. However, if I was to go about and edit a profile assigned for the user from the user screen, the change in here would affect only this specific user. So, for example, if I got, I don't know, a template that is assigned to all of my 1X agents in the environment, and I want to make an exception only for 2 users to be able to use, I don't know, different screen pop, for example. Again, I still have the option of making individual changes for a profile for a certain user without having to change the general profile configuration. That can be done again under the user form. It will go about and double click on the user template. You can go about and group your agents and supervisors into an easy-to-manage profile groups. The following will go about and describe the flow or the process of a contact history support. For example, again, as I mentioned earlier today, every time you're logging into 1X client, the web service will push down an XML file that will store your agent configuration on your PC. Once you log out, the client itself will take the XML file and send it back to the ACCCM web service. Now, even if you go about and did changes to your contact log, if you add or remove or modify existing contacts, once you log out, ACCCM will receive a copy of your new template with the new contacts and save it in the database under your user record. So the next time you would log in, you would receive your XML file with the same template configuration as before, this time with your new contact logs. Hot desking support provides ACCCM through a central configuration service that simply maps extensions to computers. So if I go to location data, I can go about and manage a host name, assign my host name to an extension or hot seats or hot desking support, assign the extension password, and my call server or my communication manager address right here. Multiple domain integration, you can go about and configure multiple domains in ACCCM and group them under one entity, thus allowing you, when choosing the user authentication mode, to choose a domain group from the list rather than a specific domain. And if we refer back to the example from earlier today, when we have a forest with 5 different domains in the forest itself, regardless of the domain that I'm sitting in or registering against, right now I would be able to log in into ACCCM 1X agent. Of course, we do support a traditional or a non-secure LDAP integration, and if needed, we can go about and support a secure LDAP connection over a secure port. In this example, the first and last entry are using a secure port, and the second entry represents a non-secure LDAP environment. Additional features: LDAP-based provisioning of all of your agents, and not just those who are using the 1X agent and their configuration. Keep in mind, if we go about and average the ACCCM admin LDAP integration, you can actually go about and automatically provision agent login IDs from your Active Directory into the ACCCM and the 1X environment. By doing so, the user will be automatically provisioned from the Active Directory, will be provisioned into the Communication Manager with the agent login ID and skill assignment, and then will go about and provision the new account automatically into the 1X environment, including the template or profile assignment for our new user. Of course, leveraging the existing features of the admin ACCCM portal, you can go about and manage your agent configuration across all of the following products, whether it's the Communication Manager, starting from release 4 and above, whether it's AACC, CMS, IQ, WFO, PC, Interaction Center, CCE, and many more. This is a comparison screen between the traditional Avaya CAM server and the ACCCM CAM server. So we can see that the following are supported in both: template management, agent management, soup management, group, hot desking, and contact list management. But from here we can see then the following are supported in ACCCM. Role management is enhanced using the ACCCM security server. Keep in mind, ACCCM Manager and Advanced Security Engine that includes a role-based integration up until the single field level of the environment. LDAP integration for multi-source is supported in ACCCM. In CAM, we can find only a single source. LDAP provisioning is supported in ACCCM. Centralized management, HA deployment, and again, this is a huge deal right here. Item number 5, ACCCM 1X CAM server is the only CAM server we can go about and support an HA deployment. And keep in mind, we have multiple HA levels based on the customer need. We can configure either active, inactive standby, a database application, or a database clustering. As all of the ACCCM product suite, we do support either a physical or a virtual infrastructure. So we do fully support the VMware deployment option. We're using Microsoft Windows-based operating system, the Windows Server 2008, where the CAM server runs on the Linux version. Item number 9 refers back to System Manager. You don't need a System Manager server in your environment in order to use ACCCM 1X CAM. Again, System Manager is not required for deployment. You can go about and deploy an ACCCM 1X CAM without having the need of purchasing a System Manager server. We do support an agent skill management, whether it's regular skill change command, a bulk skill change command, or a scheduled skill change command, leveraging the ACCCM schedule portal. You can go about and create scheduled tasks. A common one would be bulk skill change, for example, for a group of agents. And we do support an organization structure hierarchy with 3 levels: site, department, and team. Advantages of managing your 1X agents via ACCCM: you have a single point of administration for your agents and users across all of their CRM applications and the 1X agent configuration. Centralized administration of the enterprise 1X profile to ensure better security and reduce error on ongoing change management. Single sign-on support for 1X agent for either a single or multiple domains. LDAP-based provisioning of users. HA support, and VMware deployment. Right, so we are done with the PowerPoint presentation, and now we can actually start the fun stuff. Let's go about and log into my lab server. At the moment, I'm logged into my lab servers with two accounts. The first one is the administrator account right here. And the second one, as you can see, I'm logged into my QA domain using my username, which was previously configured to use 1X Agent in single sign-on. We'll go about, take a look at the different configuration, the architecture, and what needs to be done on ACCCM in order to use the 1X Agent CAD features. By now, you know we have basically three components or three modules within the ACCCM 1X CAM. We'll find our agent web service, the management web portal, and the ACCCM 1X DB. We'll start with the data layer, which is the ACCCM 1X database. This environment is a single server deployment, which means all of the system components co-reside on this virtual server. We will have our web portals, the system services, and system database co-reside together. We're leveraging the Microsoft SQL server for our database backend. And if I go about and expand my databases, I can find my ACCCM 1X database. This database will go about and store all of your agents, users, contacts, agent profiles, template settings, domain data, and so on and so forth. You can go about and expand tables. Nothing too much to see here, just the structure of the scheme of the database itself. If I go about and open the IIS, the Internet Information Services Manager, we'll leverage IIS 37 for our ACCCM 1X CAM web portal, so web server itself. All of the system web portals or web services or even APIs would be configured and installed on this IIS web server on your ACCCM. In here I can find the following: the ACCCM 1X CFG. The ACCCM 1X CFG is basically an agent web service. This web service would interact with the 1X Agent client and push down and receive an XML file to contain the agent configuration. You can find the ACCCM 1X website. This would be the management portal for 1X Agent within ACCCM. You can leverage this web portal to go about and create users, templates, application data, and so on. You would also notice, and that's something that I did earlier today, I've created another website, ACCCM 1X CFG SSO. And this website is configured for single sign-on. Keep in mind, during the installation of ACCCM Release 7, the installer, if you choose to go with 1X, would install two web portals or two web portals on your IIS. The first one would be the ACCCM 1X management portal, and the second one would be the ACCCM 1X CFG, the web service for client authentication. The best practice, or a nice tip would be, if in your environment you're using both single sign-on and basic authentication, I would recommend to manually create a new application on your IIS, point it to the same location on disk of your 1X SSO or your 1X CFG folder, and just change the authentication type for SSO. So now we can enable both single sign-on and regular basic authentication in the environment. If I go ahead and browse to the following path on my hard drive, under Program Files x86, Avaya Contact Center Control Manager 7. Under the web folder, I'll find by default the following: the ACCCM 1X CFG and the ACCCM 1X Web. What I did earlier today was to copy this folder into a new folder, change certain parameters on the web config file, and create this application on the IIS itself. If we have time later on today, we can go about and see this procedure. It's pretty much straightforward, nothing too complex in here. Again, and the reason I've created the second instance of the CFG folder is to support both basic and single sign-on authentication in the environment. If you're familiar with the 1X client itself, I'm going to switch back to my lab server where I'm logged in as my agent. If you're familiar with the 1X agent client itself, you would know that during the installation of 1X client, you have to choose whether you want to go with a centralized administration mode or a local mode. If you choose to go with centralized administration mode, the 1X client installer will go about and create the following registry entries on your PC. And I want to focus on the following two. Central Management URI would stand for the URL for your ACCCM 1X web service. So as you can see in this case, I'm using http:// my server name / ACCCM 1X CFG SSO. Just as a quick note, please remember, and this is fully documented in the configuration guide, once installing the client and choosing centralized admin mode, you need to input the following URL, which would be the URL for your 1X web service. Please remember, and this is very important, please remember when inputting the URL to add a / on the end of the URL itself, because the client itself expects a / after the URL in order to add the relevant authentication string. So please remember, when installing the client, choose to go with centralized management, input the ACCCM 1X agent web service URL, and do not forget to input a / in the end of the URL string. So again, now we can see that my instance of 1X is currently configured for centralized management with the following 1X web service. And the following setting right here, or the following registry entry, use single sign-on, would represent whether my client should log in with a single sign-on enabled or not. So if the key in here, or if the value for this key stands for 1, it means that the client will try to use single sign-on to authenticate. However, if the value is 0, the client will try to log in with the basic mode rather than single sign-on. Now, of course, if you did any change or mistyped the single sign-on mode for no, or if you've mistyped the ACCCM 1X web service URL, there's no need to uninstall and install the client from scratch again. You can just locate the following registry entry under HKey local machine software. My server is a 64-bit server, so under the WOW 64 node, I'll locate the Avaya folder, then the Avaya 1X agent, and I'll find the relevant keys under the settings folder. So my 1X client is installed and configured to work on a centralized admin mode using single sign-on. Let's go about and quickly take a look at the user and how the user is configured on the ACCCM 1X management portal.